I'm Tulsa World Meteorologist Kirsten. Thanks for joining with me this evening. We have an update on these severe storms that are pushing in towards our area. I want to give you a look outside on our radar. So currently what we're seeing, just a severe thunderstorm warning out there just off towards the west. We did have some tornado warnings earlier that have since expired. It is going to be the gusty winds that we really look at as this storm continues to progress towards the east, heading throughout the evening over the next 15-20 minutes as it starts to enter the Tulsa area. And here in Tulsa, you can hear the rumbling out there. I hear it outside my house. It's these storms, again, making their way this way. So we're going to walk through this together and just give you an update on how this is all playing out, kind of play by play. I'm going to put the lightning back on so you get a better look too as to what we're seeing out there. A lot of lightning, obviously, with this storm, heavy rainfall, and the gusty winds. Gusty winds, I think, will be the main story with this as it continues to move towards the east. So let's talk about some of this severe thunderstorm warning that we currently have for Tulsa County. Now, what we're looking at, wind speeds potentially gusting up to 70 miles per hour. Also the possibility for some hail development. We were talking about this earlier today. Severe thunderstorms, when the hail is potentially severe criteria, it's an inch diameter or larger. And so that's what we're looking at here. It can be bigger, but what we've seen a lot of really from this are those gusty winds. I'm going to take this off and give you an update on how it's progressing, so you can see the timing on everything. It's moving towards give me just a second, bear with me as I roll through some of this just to get some of the information for you. It is moving towards the east, and we're seeing it move at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. I'm just going to confirm that, though, before I start taking a track on it. No, rather, it's moving faster than that, moving a little bit quicker at that pace this evening. So let's go ahead and storm track it for you so you get a better look, because we're just right here on the edge of it in Tulsa. Actually, I'm going to redo that because I got a little off. Again, moving towards the east, you're hearing the thunder outside. It is not a tornadic warned storm, which is the good news for us this evening as it's moving in, because they let that drop just due to the fact that the winds do look menacing, or rather the winds are gusty with this, but we're not seeing any rotation right now. And what I've been watching a lot today too in conjunction with the National Weather Service is a warm front that we were talking about. And that warm front set up just south of us in Creek County. And along that warm front is where we have the best chance for seeing rotation potentially. And it looks like it just settled just to our south, which is really good news for us. But Creek County definitely saw a couple of tornadic warned storms with that earlier. Now it's pushing through and it's getting in towards Tulsa, of course, but that's why they let that tornado warning expire, is because it looks more like just some gusty winds rather than any rotation that's really being detected at this point. All right, so this is just an update on the timing. Currently it's 7:19. These storms will be in the Tulsa area in about 9 to 10 minutes from now as it continues to move to the east. Still, I'm just checking my watch. We have that severe thunderstorm warning. Hasn't been upgraded yet towards a tornado warning. But I'm also going to take a quick peek too, just to see what we're saying at the National Weather Service. Some of the stronger winds, as they say, getting in towards the Kellyville area. So if you're in that direction, know that. And again, some of these gusts definitely getting up there, 50, 60 mile an hour gusts. So the Kellyville area, you're seeing some of the stronger winds right now. Let me minimize that for you. And I'm going to pull the radar out just a little bit too. Let me go ahead and get that for you. Kind of moving out just a bit to show you that. You see that bowing right there too? We always look for really strong winds right along that. So let me go ahead and there's Kellyville. Sure enough, So right along that Boeing where we were talking about seeing some of the higher winds. So as this keeps moving towards the east here, Sapulpa, Glenpool, Mounds, these are all areas where you may see some pretty strong winds with this as it moves through as this bowing feature. We've talked about that kind of bow out, it looks like a bow, that bowed out area that's moving in the easterly direction. When you get that, you just get some really strong winds associated with it. And so again, Kellyville, some of the strongest winds with you, Sapulpa, Glenpool, Mounds, all areas where you need to be aware that you may have some really strong winds with that. Jinx up towards the north there. Tulsa is just north of that bowing feature. Doesn't mean that we won't be seeing strong winds with this. I still think that we definitely will, but know that the bowing feature is just towards our south. Now, as we take a quick peek at the velocity, just showing you this, again, not really worried all as much about any rotation out there. We look for that coupler where you see red and green together. This is just showing the winds to and from the radar. But right now, what we're really watching more is these strong winds right along that bowing feature. All right, let me move back over to our reflectivity and just show you again how that's looking. I'm also going to take a quick peek too at what's being said down over towards the National Weather Service. Yeah, so what's really being worried, rather thought about more at this point is any kind of spin-up tornado potentially along that line, that Boeing line that I was showing you. Some strong winds approaching the Sapulpa area. So if you're towards that Sapulpa area, you know what, you need to brace yourself probably for that. Definitely don't be outside. Get indoors if you can, on the first level of your house. This is not a tornado warning. I want to stress that. It's the strong winds, but with these really strong winds along these Boeing features, you can see spin-up tornadoes. That's something that is a possibility. So for those around Sapulpa right here, as this continues to move to the east, you're next in line, essentially, for seeing these very strong winds. Let me take a look at velocity with that. Yeah, again, it's the winds, the strong winds along that we're really paying attention to. So Sapulpa, now you're just right on the edge of these very strong winds. Going back up towards Tulsa, man, it is noisy here, I will tell you that, but we're just north of that Boeing feature, so we're not as concerned about the strong winds. Right now, really the ones that we're paying more attention to, just because they're right on the leading edge of that bow, would be Sapulpa at this point. Again, I want to stress, not a tornado warning, but strong winds on the leading edge of a Boeing feature that we're seeing that's being produced. So I-44 down in towards Sapulpa. I'm sure over the next couple of sweeps, we'll be seeing this just right there on this Pulpa area. Again, not a tornado. It is just some very strong winds there. Let me double check again, see how things are looking. Another thing too, a flood advisory in effect for Tulsa, Rogers, Washington, Osage, Okmulgee Creek counties. We're looking at some, very heavy downpours with this, and so that flood advisory has been put out by the National Weather Service too. So know that you may get some street flooding, some quick street flooding with this as it rolls through. Let me zoom out because I want to show you the big picture again, what we're watching. It's good always to kind of start big and zoom in. So what this is, it's what we were watching, what I was talking about earlier today. Cold front frontal boundary moving down in towards that I-44 corridor, which includes Tulsa, and this is making its way through with some very strong winds, severe thunderstorms along that. And what we're seeing is a Boeing feature that's coming in from that. So with that feature, you get some very gusty winds along the leading edge, and that's really what has been the main concern with this. At this moment in time, No tornado warnings associated with it, so you won't be hearing any sirens. You'll hear a lot of thunder and light, or hear thunder, see lightning, of course. But what you need to be prepared for is with these winds, it can still potentially do some damage, and you definitely don't want to be caught outdoors with this kind of situation. So it is a rumbling out there, is it not? Okay, so let's zoom back in just a touch. I want to get back over towards the Sapulpa area and around Mounds because this, again, is where we are looking at those very strong potential winds as they continue to move towards the east. So Sapulpa, it is right on you. So if you are here or watching me from Sapulpa, again, this is not a tornado, but these are very strong winds along the leading edge of a frontal boundary as it's moving on through. So Sapulpa is potentially seeing some strong winds with that right along that I-75 corridor. If you are around there or traveling in that area, keep that in mind because especially with high-profile vehicles, when you get strong winds like this, it's never a good thing. Let me take a quick peek as to what's going on. So just an update from the National Weather Service. There's suggested 60 to 65 mile per hour winds between Sapulpa and Kiefer, and it's heading towards South Tulsa County. So let's look back at that. All right, so here we are. Here's Tulsa from Sapulpa. Oops. Let me go ahead and zoom in over here on the screen. Sapulpa down, here's Mounds. Again, this is moving towards the east, so South Tulsa County. So we're talking Jinx, Glenpool, Bixby. These are all areas that could be seeing 60 to 65 mile per hour winds. Not tornadic. We do not have rotation with this, but we have very strong winds. Of course, lightning, thunder, heavy rainfall as well, but the winds are really what's posing a threat with that too. So if you are in the South Tulsa area, if you're watching me from somewhere around Glenpool or Bixby, know that these strong winds are upon you as they continue to move towards the east. And as I just mentioned from the National Weather Service, there's suggestion that we could be seeing 60 to 65 mile per hour winds with that. Alrighty, so I'm just taking a quick look on the chat room with National Weather Service. We get a lot of good information from spotters out there, and we also get good information, of course, from those working in emergency management. So Sapulpa, Glenpool is now through you, or Sapulpa rather is now through you. Oops, excuse me. But over here towards Glenpool, this, again, you're right on the edge at this point. I'm going to zoom back out. I want to show you what's happening in Tulsa. So the bowing feature that I was talking about is really where you get very strong winds. In Tulsa, we're just north of that. So we're not as worried about the wind feature, though we could still see some quick wind gusts with this as it's moving towards the east. But where I'm really more concerned about those winds are going to be south. So again, that's Sapulpa, down Mounds, Bixby, Jinx. It's definitely noisy out there this evening. All right, so I'm going to zoom back out once again and show you that what we're dealing with, what we're seeing this evening. If you're just joining me, thank you so much. I'm trying to give you an update on what you're seeing outside. And if you're watching me from an area of your home, in your safe place, again, we're not under a tornado warning, but with very strong winds, it's always best to get away from the windows because when you have winds that are up to 60 to potentially 65 mile per hour, that can do some damage. It can take tree limbs, they can go through windows. So it is best to try to stay away from the windows if you can. And the beauty with watching us here at the Tulsa World is that you can take us anywhere because we're on your phone, we're on your laptop, you can take us wherever. So hopefully I'm with you tonight, keeping you feeling safe, just in case you're feeling a little nervous this evening. All right, so giving you again a bigger picture of what's happening. We have severe thunderstorms moving across eastern Oklahoma. Surprise, if you didn't know. This is all associated with the frontal boundary that's moving through. We are not looking at any tornado-warned storms at this point, all just severe warned storms. But what we're really seeing is the main threat with these is very gusty winds in some areas, as we're seeing some bowing taking place with some of these storms this evening. So this extends down from Tulsa all the way south along that I-44 corridor. It's now south of Oklahoma City. These storms, as they were a little bit to the west of us earlier this evening, call it just about an hour ago or so, they encountered a warm front that had stalled. And this was something that I was watching with the National Weather Service today, because that was really going to be the indication as to whether or not we were going to be seeing any rotation with this. The good news for Tulsa is that the warm front actually stalled just south of that. So when this frontal boundary comes in contact with that warm front, that's where you could be seeing the best area for some rotation, potentially. It was just south of us, but it did encompass Creek County. And so in Creek County, they did see some areas of rotation with this storm as it moved through, but it has since dissolved. Rather, not the storm, but the rotation has, only because the warm front wasn't that far north to really be of any worry for us here in Tulsa. So that's why the tornado warning was not extended into the Tulsa County and Tulsa area. And that's why we are, again, just a severe thunderstorm warning. Okay, so going back over to the storm, that was the bigger picture. Kind of zooming back in again, since it's best to kind of give you broad view, narrow view. Zooming right back on in once more. Sorry, we're stalling just a bit. Very heavy rainfall coming down, some strong winds as well. I'm going to zoom right on into Tulsa, kind of get right in the nitty gritty there and show you where we're seeing some of this heavy rainfall. Jinx, look at you. You are getting some very strong rain at this point. You can see the reflectivity coming off of that. Up towards Tulsa, there's I-44 Midtown. There we go. Midtown. Is my cursor showing up? There it is. Okay. Midtown, you're also right in just kind of the thick of it. I turned the lightning detection off only because there's just so much of it. I mean, I could turn it back on, but it's hard even to see the reflection, or reflectivity rather, when the lightning's on. But trust me, we've got a lot of lightning. If you didn't know, you can definitely hear it. So I'm just kind of zooming down to show you where this very heavy rainfall is taking place. We're talking downtown Tulsa, north of downtown, all the way in towards the Midtown area, extending down south. There's 244 down towards I-44. These are all, again, areas where we are getting some very heavy rainfall. Excuse me for checking my phone, just making sure we're not missing any severe warned storms here. But we maintain under that severe thunderstorm warning here in Tulsa, as the potential for some of these winds could be rather strong. Give me a second. I'm going to take a quick peek back in the National Weather Service chat room, just get some reports, see what we're seeing. So Highway 97 and 412, 1 to 2 inches of water covering the surface of the street there. So if you are in and around that area, just know that you may have some issues with driving. I think it goes without saying, if you can't see the road, do not try to drive through it. Water is not something that you should mess with. Let's see. 70 mile an hour straight line winds potentially in the Jinx area. So let's go back down towards that. I want to show you what that looks like. All right. So let's move down towards Jinx just a bit. Potentially 70 mile an hour gusts are some that have been being reported at this time. That was about a minute ago. So you may actually be hearing a few sirens, I've been told, but that is because we are getting reports of some 70 mile an hour straight line winds with that. Let me move down a little bit farther towards Jinx so you can see what that reflectivity is looking like at this point. And I'm also going to put velocity on here just a bit. All right. Okay, so again, what we are seeing that's being reported. Of course, power outages. I haven't even started mentioning that, but I'm sure that that's something that may be affecting many of you. And again, as I mentioned, the beauty of that is that hopefully you are able to take Tulsa World with you as we are all digital, and take us in that safe place with you, or keep us with you in your dark kitchen if you don't have any power right now. But as I just mentioned, some 70-mile-per-hour gusts potentially in and around the Jinx area. So if you were down there and you were hearing a few sirens, it's not a tornado warning. It's the fact that there were some very, very strong straight line winds. That's going to be something else that we're going to need to be watching with this. The straight line winds that I was mentioning earlier along the leading edge of that. All right, it is a noisy one and it is a wet one here. As I spoke about earlier, we do have some reports of water over roads, and that's going to be an issue with these with these storms, as they're really producing some pretty significant amount of rainfall with all of this. So here again is what we're seeing, strong, severe storms coming through the Tulsa area. No tornadoes at this point. We had reports of people hearing a few sirens down south because we were getting some reports of straight line winds, potentially up to about 70 miles per hour. So in those areas, that's, again, nothing to take lightly. If you're at your house, try to get away from the windows with winds like that. It is something that, even though it's not a tornado, it can do damage, and it can bring things right through your window. And you don't want to be around if something like that happens, of course. Okay, so bear with me for just a second. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit and give you another kind of broad look as to what's going on here this evening. So we're watching severe thunderstorm warnings, severe thunderstorms that are rolling through that are all associated with this frontal boundary that is making its way across that I-44 corridor, and of course in the Tulsa Metro. So we're here, Tulsa World is with you, letting you know what's happening. None of this is we don't have any tornado warnings, I should say. It is just severe thunderstorm warnings, and that again is because no rotation is being detected with any of this. What I was mentioning earlier was something we were definitely keeping an eye on, myself, the National Weather Service, was the potential for some of that rotation in and around the area, only because there was a warm front earlier that was continuing to move towards the north and stalled right around Creek County and just south of Tulsa County, and that area where the warm front was, as the frontal boundary is moving down through and collides with that warm front, that was where we could have potentially seen some rotation, and we did actually, just off towards the west in portions of Creek County. There was a little bit of rotation that was detected earlier. There was a tornado warning with that. It had expired. Now it's just severe thunderstorms as it's moving through, but man, it is definitely packing a little bit of a punch with it, as we're seeing some strong winds, heavy downpours, lots of lightning. But man, the winds are something that we're really taking note on. Okay, I want to zoom into Bixby, because Bixby, you look like you're next for seeing this storm that's now moving in. And we focus on that leading edge because that's really where you see some of the gusty winds that come through. So let me go ahead and zoom back on down rather towards Bixby. So you're right on the edge here up towards Broken Arrow. You're another one that's right on the edge of seeing some these showers and storms. All right. So the other thing that I was mentioning earlier as well is the flood advisory that we're under until 11 o'clock tonight, as these storms are going to continue to move through, putting down some pretty good rainfall with it. So with that, we're already getting reports of water over the roadways in some spots, and that's not anything that you want to take lightly, of course. So those storms, again, moving through, very very heavy rainfall coming up with that as well. Excuse me, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. All right, let me go ahead and show you a future track. I want to kind of give you a look as to what you can expect for the rest of the evening with this. First, I'm going to zoom back out. give you a wide view once again at what we are seeing here across eastern Oklahoma. Man, the good news is that those tornado warnings went away, that things are starting to kind of calm down just a little bit with this. All right, so here's how things are looking at a broad view for you. There's that frontal boundary. It's moving right on through. After it passes, it's quick to dry up. It makes its way through. It's fast, and then things will be looking a lot better for us on the flip side of that. On the west side, things are already much improved. So I want to show you what the future track looks like, just to reiterate that. Now, this model run is not exactly my favorite because it's kind of holding on to a few of those storms. These storms are going to move out, and listen, within the next, call it 30 minutes, this should be out of that I-44 corridor for the most part, pushing down to the south. There'll be kind of a mix, of sun and clouds as the sun is setting, which may make for a really pretty sunset for some off to the west. But then that'll move on out of here. And then for the rest of the evening, things will look a lot better for us, of course. And for tomorrow's a nice quiet day before we get to see another round of severe weather on Wednesday night. All right, let's take you back to the reflectivity and how things are looking out there. This gives you a better look at that lightning. Take a look. I didn't have it on earlier because I told you there was just so much of it. It almost just muddied up the reflectivity, and then you couldn't even see what was happening on the radar. And that's why. Take a look at that. Look at all that lightning. It has been a noisy one out there this evening. So let's stop the radar one more time. We're still under that severe thunderstorm warning, actually. And just to give you a little update on that, that is, bear with me for just a second as it pops up. But that is still ongoing for us as we are seeing some of those wind gusts getting up to about 70 miles per hour for some, and then the possibility for some of that hail development too. It's a little bit bigger. We haven't really had much in the way of hail reports. It's mainly just been at this point the winds. You know what? I said that. And then, of course, there was a hail report that comes up around 75 and 191st. A spotter was reporting pea-sized hail. So if you are south, and unfortunately my computer has locked up on me, but if you are south around 75 and 191st, then you are experiencing potentially some pea-sized hail. Not going to do too much damage, but definitely something that you'd want to take note of and not get stuck out in, because nobody wants to be stuck out in hail. But that's a little bit farther towards the south. Hard for me to show you when anything's locked up here. There we go. All right, things are looking better now for us. Let's zoom back on down. This is, as I was saying, that's 191st and 75. So let's zoom back into that just a bit for you so you get a better look. Pea-sized hail being detected in that area. Otherwise, we haven't really seen much in the way of any hail reports. It's just been some gusty winds this evening. There's Bixby, there's Mounds, right along 75 there, back up towards Broken Arrow. You're kind of right there on that edge. And then back in around Jinx, things are starting to lighten up for you just a little bit as well. And then up towards Tulsa, we're seeing, things starting to improve a bit. I told you this was going to be quick paced. I mean, this was moving out of here pretty quickly now. I've been, I think, talking to you for about 30 minutes, and now this is all but done in the Tulsa area. We still have some rain out there, but really the main threat is moving out. So we're just going to give you a couple more minutes of this update and then go ahead and let this one expire. But again, this evening, as this continues to move towards the east, things are going to be looking a lot better for us. We are going to start, what's the word I'm looking for? Clearing out. Goodness, it's Monday. Can you tell? We're going to start clearing out, and then we're going to be seeing much nicer conditions then as we head into tomorrow. Tomorrow's a great day, so enjoy that, because then we get that chance for severe weather that pops back up again. All right, here again, that severe thunderstorm warning. I just want to give you one last look at that too, and kind of give you the stats on that. That is until 7:45, so it's set to expire here pretty much now. Let's see if they went ahead and let that one expire. But the potential for some 70 mile an hour gusts too. Let me see. I'm reading a couple of things coming up on the National Weather Service chat room here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and minimize that one back down. So things looking a lot better for us. It was a quick moving storm, thankfully, and now it's continuing to push down towards the east and southeast this evening. And the good news is no tornadic warm storms with this as it moved through. It's just a severe thunderstorm warning. As it continues to push south and east throughout the evening here, we're going to see it continue even to lose any sort of intensity from that. And as it moves down into southeast Oklahoma, things should be looking a lot better for it than at that point as well. Thanks again for joining me again this evening. I appreciate it. Hopefully I helped you feel a little bit more safe throughout this storm and gave you a little bit of information as well, so you were up to date onto what was going on as this storm was moving through the area. So I really appreciate you sticking with the Tulsa World for all your weather updates. Have a safe evening.